Hello, there is Impossible Creations, and in this tutorial video we will set up some props in the room which we prepared in previous tutorial video. If you did not watch the previous tutorial videos, I encourage you to watch it now to know what we're doing here. Alright, first thing we will set will be some decals on the floor. We will do it in separated field modifier package, so let's unfold this, add new, and let's call it floor decals. Alright, let's switch to it. Let's add first field modifier on the side, and let's call it floor decals. Alright, switch to it, and let's add my prefab for the decal. And I called it like that. And this prefab is creating something like that, and we want to put it under the walls. And this decal is using system of ultimate decal, and since everything you see here is generated, instantiated every time we want to preview it, so we must call do restart on controller script to restart. Decals will just refresh correctly every time we want to preview it. Let's add spawner. Let's call it floor decal. And there our friend will be quick solutions get coordinates rule. And like in previous tutorial video, we will align it with wall. And we don't want to spawn this decal when there is no wall. So let's toggle this. Let's disable gizmos. Now let's add some offsets to align it as we want it. Alright, we can try adding some randomization, and for this purpose we will set static seed, let's say 10, and now you will not see everything going random every time we preview. Now with static seed, when we change randomization offsets, for example, you will clearly see what's happening. So we can add some randomization like half, and there, for example, it's too much. Let's go 1, and let's make it a bit more on the wall. When we randomize rotations, then it sometimes looks wrong, so I will leave it at 0. Maybe scale we can also randomize a bit. Here we can set up to 3. Alright, now when we switch seed to 0, so everything is random, we can check how it generates. But let's say we don't want these decals to be in every cell with wall. Let's add some count, spawning probability, and let's change it a bit. And now it's better. Now let's add some dust on the floor, and I have here prefabs called dust, and let's drag and drop rest of the prefabs. Let's add spawner, call it floor dust. Let's select random prefabs. Now let's add some random positioning, let's say 0.6, 0.6. Let's add random rotation from -180 to 180. Alright, now let's limit count, spawning probability, and it's okay. Now we will add wall leak decal, which looks like that. We want to put it on wall. So let's rename this package, because there will be not only floor decals but different decals. And let's add another modifier, call it wall leaks. Let's add prefabs. And let's drag and drop rest of them. And let's add random spawner, so it will choose random prefab from all which are inside. Let's align it with wall, quick solutions get coordinates. and write wall, and let's not spawn it if there is no wall. Let's set the rotation. Now we don't see it because it don't have any mesh, but it's no problem. We can switch to Gizmo's preview, but you see walls and ceiling are covering our view. So let's go back to root and disable preview of floor and ceiling with this I button. Walls 2. Okay, let's go back to decals, wall leaks. And now we see that our lake is in placement of these rectangles. Now to stop everything going crazy when we change something, we can set static seed, and now we can easily set it up. Now when we change the rotation, the directional offset axis swapped. Wait, it should be 90 because it's opposite direction for the decal. Alright, and it's flipped, so let's go with -1 and maybe scale it a bit like that, maybe here too, and then maybe randomize a bit the scale, and let's limit count by spawning probability. Let's disable gizmos, maybe disable gizmos preview. Let's go back to random seed. And okay, I think it's alright. Well, it might seem for you to be very tiny thing, but I just showed you a lot of approaches which you can use on different props. And now let me quickly add some more props with speed up. Okay, let's say we will not have more decal packs. Maybe there is too much. Set the probability a bit smaller. And when we paint some further corridors, you see everything is automatically placed. Now let's finally add some objects in a room. Now let's add another modificator pack. Let's call it mod pack furniture. And first thing we want to add will be some lighting. So let's add first fill modificator, keep it in, call it lights, and let's add prefab of lamp. Let's add spawner, call it light, and let's align it with wall. Let's don't spawn it if there is no wall, and go up. Let's add some separation with placement, distance to cell, so use light and name, and also let's add some reflection probe to be automatically created inside the room. Now let's finally add some furniture. Let's add new field modificator, call it base furniture. Let's switch it and let's add bookshelf, add spawner, let's align it with wall, and don't spawn it if there is no wall. Move it a bit forward. Yeah, that's okay. Let's use name for separation. So placement, distance to cell, using name, and let's say 4 cells. Alright. And now let's add some drawers. So let's add prefabs. Let's add all versions. Add spawner. Call it just drawer. And who's random prefabs without bookshelf. Align it with wall. Don't spawn it if there is no wall. Move it a bit forward. Alright, but we don't want to spawn it in placement of the bookshelf. How we can fix it? Well, it's pretty simple. Let's add tag to bookshelf and let's call it, for example, big prop because it's pretty tall. And let's say we want to put drawer in the same placement. So now it's only in this placement, but we can negate this. So now it's everything but not in bookshelf place. But you can see also there light being in the bookshelf. So we can add the same rule for the light, negate this, but lights must be executed after setting up the bookshelf. So now it will work in all cases. Now let's add separation between the drawers. So placement, distance, let's use name, say 4. And now let's add also these drawers to be in extension walls, align with it. So let's add a drawer. Let's use our previously set X tag, but let's disable for now the distance check. Let's align it, right? But we don't want to drawer spawn near this drawer. And why it did not detect it? Because this drawer is spawned before this. So we must move this one here and now it works. Let's randomize seed to check if everything. Yeah. Now let's add some paintings on the walls. So let's add another modifier. First let's add clock on the wall. Again align it with wall. Don't spawn if there is no wall. Let's move it up. Let's also don't spawn it when there is big prop. And let's negate this. Let's add some random rotation. Let's say 5. Because it's abandoned place, so maybe random offsets. And we want only one wall clock, so let's go with count, limit spawning count, and there should be only one. Yeah, and we don't want to spawn it on the light, so let's say all spawners in this modifier will have tag wall prop. And let's also add this tag to light. And let's negate also placing in wall prop, and the same for light. Alright, now let's add some paintings. Prefabs, picture frame, let's add spawner, select the paintings without clock, and I think we can use the same get coordinates rule, so we don't need to define it twice. Let's call it picture. Let's make a distance between the pictures. Distance to cell, use name. So use picture name. And also not placing picture in big prop and wall prop should be global too. So we don't need to add the same rules a few times. And let's say we want also picture to be inside the extension wall. So let's go back to base furniture and duplicate drawer with extension. Move it to the left. Next picture. Let's add picture. Align. And some randomization. Alright. Well, it looks a bit empty, so let's maybe, for now, let's add more drawers. Maybe separate them by 3 cells. Alright. And now let's add new modifier pack, and there we will add some pottery, some small props. Let's switch to it, and let's add new modifier, and it will be pots. Let's add prefabs. Alright, that will be enough. Let's add a random spawner, and let's add again, like always, get coordinates of wall. Don't spawn if not tagged. Let's move them out of walls. And let's randomize them a bit. Now to avoid situations like that, we have few options. Out here I will show you a new way how you can do this, and it's collision, check if collides, and you can preview with debugs how the collision is detected. And you see it's collision based on bounding boxes, not mesh collision, because it's just pretty fast and works nice. So now you see that vase which was colliding with the bookshelf disappeared. Let's disable debug, so it's enough for now. And now let's do some spacing like always. And let's check cells randomly for more randomization. So cells will not be checked by algorithm one by one, but randomly, like first here, second here, third somewhere in here. It can be helpful when randomizing. Also, we can add now to the furniture the radiator. Let's add modifier for radiator. Let's add prefab called radiator. It just will fill the space a bit more. Get coordinates, align with wall. Don't spawn if no wall. Also don't spawn if there are prop or big prop. Negate this. And let's make some spacing. And we see that drawer was not detected because we did not assign any tag, I think. Let's see, drawer. Let's make all of these props have prop tag. And now it works. Now let's add some plants to the room. And this plant's placing will be pretty similar to the vases. So we can export copy of this field modifier of pots, but I will rename it to vases. When clicking E button, we'll export copy of this modifier, call it already plants. Let's add new field for modifier. Let's find plants, and we can keep this modifier file as separated file in the project, but if we want to keep it inside this modifier pack, we have to click N. Then we can remove the plants. Let's remove the clone from the name. And now we can freely set up new modifier with the same rules already. Let's remove prefabs and add new ones. Let's check cells with random tool for slightly different placement than vases. Let's check distance to plant but not vase. For this, let's disable spawning probability to see all plants which want to spawn. And you see this small plant is a bit too far away from the wall, but other plants are in good distance from the wall. We can offset them, not with get coordinates. We can add transforming and bounded offset. So now the models are offset not by world units, but by the bounding box scale. So this model went more further from the wall than this one, and everything is more aligned with the walls. So we can turn on collisions again and probability, but let's make it a bit higher probability. And nothing is visible because we must move bounded offset to be executed before the collision. So the offset is used also on collision position. So order of the rules also matter. And you see, it looks pretty nice. Let's turn on back distance and probability. Alright, so it's working. Let's make the room a bit smaller so we can better reference it. Maybe let's add more of the bookcases. And also let's go with random placement, so you see that there is always one and there is one, because when checking cells one by one, the distance between the bookcases can be not too much randomized, but with random cells checking it will be more randomized. Alright, now let's add some object in the center of the room. Let's add table in the center of this room. Add prefab of the table. Let's add spawner in the center of the room. What we could do would be placing it in distance to the walls. It depends what you want to achieve, but we want to just put it just inside center, and there we can use placement, grid position, and let's say X in the center, 1, 1, and duplicate this rule and Z. And we are in the center, and it's kind of in a center cell, but we want to push it to be in total center of the grid. So we can go with build in grid, correct to center, without y-axis, and let's say we want also random rotation, but let's also add here ceiling light. So let's add prefab. Let's add spawner to this lamp, and let's get coordinates of the table, and you see it's here. We can push it in world position up 2.75, no, 2.7, alright. And now we can for a moment disable default lights, and here we have it. Alright, so that's all for this tutorial. There was shown pretty big amount of tips for placing props in rooms. If you have some questions, feel free to ask in the comment section. Subscribe or hit the bell for notifications about new videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next tutorials of procedural generation grid. Bye bye!